So I was checking my email one day. I was getting a little bored. And I took a break and I went into a Jewish chat in MSN. And I'm in there with all the Jews. And it was actually an Israeli chat, it was called, quote unquote. Guy comes in, he says, male 23, United Arab Emirates Muslim, who wants to chat? So all the Yahud, they started making fun of him, saying all kinds of horrible things to him. And he was answering them back, but his criticisms of quote unquote Israel were very precise. So I was interested because I'm Ajnabi, I came to this land from the West, and I see that all these conclusions that he's coming to had some weight to them. So I whispered him in a private chat, and this led to about 2 years of him teaching me and quizzing me, mostly about Tawheed al-Elohiyya. It seemed strange to me as I spoke to this guy. This guy is a goy, he's a Gentile. But wallahi, he knew where God was, where God wasn't. He knew Allah better than any Jew that I ever met. If you ask the Jews, where's Allah? They tell you everywhere. They have no idea. In kul makan. I finally saw a man that wasn't Jewish, but this guy is better than me and better than all that I knew. One day, I really liked this guy. He had a big impression on me. And he told me one day, Yusuf, do me a favor, send me your picture in an email. And I said, well, what do you want my picture for? He said, because when I come to Palestine, I want to know whose head I'm not going to chop off. And then he just signed off. SubhanAllah. So I started to think about this. Wow, man, this was way before the current trend of head chopping. So I started to think about it. Wow, that was really killer. And it had an impact on me. Now Islam was strongly in my mind, and at this point, all the problems that the brother was giving me about Judaism that I started to learn. And by the way, to understand Judaism in full is very hard, because Judaism is based not just on the simple level, and the Quran says it's simple for all to understand. Judaism has, or I should call it Rabbiism, it has the simple understanding, the middle understanding, and the hidden understanding that only the Hakamat, or should I call them the elders of Zion, understand. And they always leave this back door open, so you can never really debate them, because each one has a different opinion on everything that you mention to them. So I discussed about the corrupted Torah today and the evil Talmud. And I spoke to this rabbi. He used to ride. I used to live near Gaza in Netivot. I used to drive to El-Quds every day to work. There was some rabbi with me. He was a crazy American guy, but he had the element of the deen of the Yahud. Everything that I told him, he said, yes, that's correct. Everything correct, 100%. So I said, listen, Rabbi, you're telling me all this? Yeah, this is correct. I said, so I want you to do me a favor. I want you to meet this brother in Emirates. I want you to talk to him. He said, I will not. I said, why not? He said, everything you said is correct, but if you think that I'm going to tell a goy that Judaism is incorrect, I won't do it. So, subhanAllah, this is what the Quran tells us. This is what we learn from the Sunnah, and this is what they are today. This was a man of their knowledge. Anyway, another incident. One day I was in Jerusalem, and I saw a rabbi. And this rabbi, I always wanted to speak to him. Even when I was in Brooklyn, he used to live near my community. His name was Rabbi Soleimani, and he was the rabbi of the Shirazi Jews from Fars, from Iran. And he was new to America. And now I see the Iranian Jews that are in quote-unquote Israel. So I asked him, I went over to him, I said, Rabbi, can I ask you a question? He said, yes. I said, where is it better for a Jew to be a religious Jew, an Orthodox Jew? In a land of Sharia, at that time that's what I believe that land was that he was in, where the women, they're dressed in hijab, properly covered. You don't hear al-shaf words, you don't hear the dirty words coming out of their mouth on the streets like you see in Tel Aviv, in these places where the Iranians live. They have dresses, it's not size 1, 2, 3, it's the size they wear is not guilty, Your Honor. Really, really short. Is it better that they see this, or is it better that they be surrounded by these people? And he told me, not by force. I said, Rabbi, do you believe that the Torah is the haq? You believe the Talmud is the haq? You believe Judaism is the haq? He said, yes. I said, you're going to tell me that if you had the quwwah, if you had the power to enforce that deen that you believe is the truth, you wouldn't do it? And he told me, shh, Khalas. This man is Zabali. I don't want to see this guy. Now I see exactly for sure what they are. These are garbage people. They don't even stand up for what they believe their religion is. The next morning I went to the Suq al-Arabi in Al-Quds, and I bought the translation of the meaning of the Holy Quran in English. And I remember when I was taking it home, it was like I was taking home contraband, like I had something stolen, because the Yahud, they say you're not allowed to read, especially the Rambam, he's one of their big hakamat, that you're forbidden to read any foreign ideologies or faiths. When I got home, I locked myself on the sun porch, and this is on, Yom al-Sabt is the day off for the Yahud. I open up the Quran. Wallahi, I couldn't put it down. Surah Al-Fatiha, Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Al-Imran. It was addictive. The Torah in its corrupted version today is probably one of the most boring books since War and Peace. I mean, seriously, I don't know how somebody can keep their eyes open just like this. Was action-packed from the beginning. And wallahi, I shouldn't say always, but at that point, I hated something about the Jews. And I didn't know what it was. I couldn't put the finger on it. Something about them I just didn't like. Here is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying every criticism of the Jews, Surah Al-Baqarah, all the stupid questions they were asking, one after the other, making things more and more and more harder for them. Talking about the arrogance. Exactly. But not in a hateful way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to them, but in a way to correct them and put them in the straight path, inshallah. This is unbelievable. Surah Al-Fatiha. The salat that this surah, and some people say it's also a prayer. Some ulama. Just think what we say. Sirata, Ahdina Sirat al-Mustaqim, to guide us in the straight path. This sentence goes against everything Judaism stands for. I think they say just the opposite in their prayers. Everything in the Jewish prayer was like a business deal between God and them. And don't forget what you promised us because of our, it's a business deal, like God owes them something. So, subhanAllah, this Islam is teaching people to go on the straight path. This just blew my mind. As a Jew, we were taught that the Goyim, or the Gentiles, are basically worthless. And the Talmud is full of fatwa allowing shady business practices with Gentiles. But of course not with Jews, because they're the chosen people. Some people told me that they were chosen to be bombed. But that's a different thing. But not that we promote that, of course. As I said, when I looked in the first Quran again, when I looked at the first ayah in Surah Al-Fatiha, this just separated everything that the evil Talmud was teaching me. Wallahi, at this point now, I was addicted. I was an Islamaholic. Okay, I loved everything about Islam. And alhamdulillah, the first brother that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent me to guide me, he was upon a good manhaj. He had a good creed. I'm very thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I had a good da'iyah that put me on the straight path from the beginning. By the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I learned that Islam was based on dalil and evidences. And I saw, alhamdulillah, unlike that evil rabbi that I spoke to, Islam is very strong in denouncing deviance in every aspect. Whereas these Jews, they go in the government of the Yahud, and he's supposed to be a religious Jew, and he's putting on a whole hoax that he's religious, and he goes in the government. And alhamdulillah, one of the names of Allah, Al-Hakim, this is what Allah teaches us, that there's only Sharia in Islam. Islam teaches us to go against the tyrant that leads some of our lands, unlike these rabbis, or the stolen Muslim lands, as you call it. And Islam says that anybody that rules by anything other than 100% Sharia has committed an act of kufr. This impressed me so much. Islam was a complete religion. So, alhamdulillah, Rabbi Alameen, after finishing the Quran and reading it the first time, I had to go home and tell my wife, Yani fish elbek. I had to get it off my heart. I couldn't hold it anymore. I returned back. I returned to my house. I told my wife, come on, Luna then. I said, Luna, let's go for a walk. Let's go in the park a little bit. Now this is my Jewish wife at that time of 9 years. We went out in the park. I said, listen, Luna, I just want to tell you something. I read the Quran, and alhamdulillah, I'm a Muslim. I don't believe in the deen of the Yahud anymore. And I just want to tell you, you can say whatever religion that you want, if you want it, not every religion, but you could stay upon the Judaism that you're upon now. And you can even put the kids in Jewish schools. We have the Ruqsa from the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who was married to Safiya, that was a Jew that Aslam. And my wife was really from Ahl Kitab. She wasn't some Jewish woman from the Shari. My wife told me, I was born a Jew, I'll die a Jew. And she was very upset. I said, listen, again, I'm not forcing you to do anything. Wallahi, I love my wife and I loved her then. And I told her, you can do what you want, but I have to be honest with you, I'm a Muslim. We went back to my house. I can't believe that I just told my wife this. I logged on, I told Salah. I just told my wife I'm a Muslim. SubhanAllah, I don't know how did I do that? How did I tell my wife I'm a Muslim? I have no idea what's going to happen now. His brother Salah told me in Emirat, Ya Yusuf, just make dua. Make dua for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open up her heart. And we're going to make dua here in Emirat, inshallah. And you be the example of what's a good Muslim. Let her see what a Muslim is. In Maghrib, she didn't have a very good influence by the neighbors. There were many Jahl Arab, but there wasn't too much Islam in her area. 2 weeks later, alhamdulillah Rabbi Alameen, my wife took Shahada, was reading Quran, alhamdulillah Rabbi Alameen. We started to make the salat in our home in Palestine, or quote-unquote Israel, where we lived then. They used to have the shutters. You pull the shutters down. And, I used to put these shutters down, didn't let my kids see that we were Muslim yet, because they were still in Jewish schools. I used to make my salat in private. I had this thing, I had a laptop, and I had this program, how to salli. It's a very old program, I'm sure many of you have it here. And I used to stand, and I used to look to my right and had the laptop on the table, and then I used to push the button to go to the next, just to see how, because there were no Muslims. There was nowhere I could go, I just had my laptop. SubhanAllah. My kid, Abdul Aziz, he's the second from the youngest, then his name was Ezra. He's a very sweet boy, alhamdulillah. Sweet as sugar, this boy. But he hated his teachers. He hated the school he was in, the Jewish school. He used to bring home the school picture and he would just rub out the teacher's face. He would just scratch it out. He was full of venom. He didn't know at this time that we're Muslim. We didn't say anything about Islam. I went to a parent-teacher conference. The lady tells me, his teacher, Mr. Cohen, your son Ezra told me that one day his father is going to come here with the Muslims and he's going to kill everyone in this room. Wallahi, that's what he told me. This is, subhanAllah, this is the fitrah that my son was in. I never said this, these words never came from my mouth. I don't teach these things to my kids, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, alhamdulillah, he made his bara very good from the beginning. So I said, I don't know where he got it from. Wallah, I have no idea. I never said these things to him. So we started to talk to the kids slowly about Islam. First thing we had to teach them about is Isa alayhi salam, because the Yahud in the Talmud, and the Al-Fiqh Talmud, it makes fun of Isa alayhi salam, and it makes fun of Maryam, the mother of Isa, the mighty prophet and Messiah of Islam. And alhamdulillah, they took it very well. I used to take my son Abdul Rahman, the oldest one, to Aqsa. Mind you, I was living 90 kilometers from Aqsa, down south near Gaza. So we would go in and come out and Salih, and then we had to be home by Yom Juma, because by the Yahud, by Friday sundown, there's no kahra, no electricity, everything stops. So I used to run there and come back. I took Abdul Rahman.